Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Before we dive in, please remember to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any future stories. Today's story is about Alara, who had always believed her marriage to Lena was a partnership forged in steel, a structure she, as an architect, could appreciate for its integrity and thoughtful design. 34, a senior associate at a prestigious firm in Chicago, she thought their life in the restored brownstone in Lincoln Park was the blueprint of a shared future, meticulously planned and beautifully executed. They had a life of comfortable routines, of shared jokes over morning coffee, of unspoken understanding that felt as solid and reliable as the brick walls of their home. She had thought their love was the foundation upon which everything else was built, unshakable and absolute. Until that Tuesday evening in October when everything changed. The scent hit her first, a cloying floral with a musky base, completely alien. It wasn't her own sandalwood and citrus scent, nor was it Lena's familiar light, green tea fragrance. It clung to the wool of Lena's coat like a ghost, an unwelcome guest in their carefully curated life. Alara was in the kitchen, stirring a risotto that required her full attention, when Lena came in, dropping her keys into the ceramic bowl by the door with a clatter that sounded just a little too loud, a little too deliberate. She looked tired, the lines around her bright blue eyes deeper than usual, but she smiled that familiar, dazzling smile that had always made Alara's heart skip a beat. Long day, Lena sighed, shrugging off her coat and draping it over a dining chair. The foreign perfume wafted through the warm, savory air of the kitchen, a discordant note in a familiar symphony. Alara paused her stirring, the wooden spoon hovering over the creamy rice. She had always been observant, a trait that made her a brilliant architect. She noticed the misaligned tile, the subtle stress fracture in a wall, the way light fell across a room at different times of day. And now she noticed this. It wasn't just a scent, it was an announcement, an invisible stain on the fabric of their evening. She turned, keeping her expression neutral, a mask of casual inquiry she didn't feel. "Smells like you got a hug from someone new," she said, her voice light, conversational. It was a test, a simple question with a universe of possible answers. Lena's smile tightened for a fraction of a second, a micro-expression of panic that Alara registered with a sudden, cold dread in the pit of her stomach. "Oh, that?" Lena laughed, a brittle sound. "Yeah, Chloe from marketing. Her birthday today. Big celebration in the conference room, cake, the whole thing. She's a big hugger, Chloe." The name was vaguely familiar, a junior associate in Lena's department, young, ambitious, someone Lena had mentioned once or twice as being a real go-getter. The explanation was plausible, almost perfect in its mundane detail. A birthday, a hug, a lingering scent. Alara should have let it go. She wanted to let it go, to return to the risotto and the comfortable rhythm of their life. But the architect in her saw the flaw in the design, the tiny crack in the foundation. Lena was not a hugger, not with colleagues. She maintained a professional distance, a boundary she was proud of. And the scent wasn't a fleeting, "oops, I bumped into you" kind of smell. It was an intimate, settled-in fragrance, the kind that comes from a prolonged, close embrace. Alara nodded slowly, turning back to the stove. "Sounds nice," she said, her voice betraying none of the chaos suddenly erupting in her mind. The risotto, which had seemed so important moments before, was now just a pot of simmering grain. The warmth of the kitchen felt suffocating. For the rest of the evening, she played her part, discussing her day, asking about Lena's projects, laughing at the right moments. But inside, a cold, methodical process had begun, the puzzle pieces of the last few months clicking into place with sickening clarity. The late nights Lena had attributed to a new campaign launch. The way she now guarded her phone, angling it away from Alara's view with a casualness that was anything but. The sudden interest in a spin class on the other side of town, 3 times a week. The new lingerie, purchased without comment, that Alara had only seen in the laundry basket, never worn for her. Each detail, previously dismissed as a harmless quirk or a symptom of work stress, now seemed like a carefully laid brick in a wall being built between them. That night, as Lena slept soundly beside her, breathing the soft, even breaths of the innocent, Alara lay awake, staring at the ceiling. The foreign perfume seemed to have seeped into their pillows, a constant, mocking reminder. She felt a profound sense of violation, as if a stranger had walked through their home, touching all their things, leaving an invisible trace of their presence everywhere. The trust she had placed in Lena, the very bedrock of their 12-year relationship, felt like it was turning to sand beneath her. She slipped out of bed, her movements silent and deliberate, and went downstairs. She didn't know what she was looking for, but she knew she had to look. Lena's work laptop was on the dining table, closed. Too risky. But her iPad, the one they shared for recipes and streaming shows, was on the kitchen counter. It was synced to Lena's iCloud account. With trembling hands, Alara picked it up. Her heart hammered against her ribs, a frantic, trapped bird. A part of her screamed to put it down, to go back to bed and choose blissful ignorance. But the other part, the part that designed buildings to withstand earthquakes, knew that you had to understand the full extent of the damage before you could decide whether to rebuild or demolish. She opened the messaging app, and there it was. A thread with Chloe B., the name from Lena's lie, now given a face by a smiling profile picture. Alara's breath hitched. She started scrolling up, her stomach clenching tighter with every message. It wasn't just a few flirtatious texts. It was a novel, an epic of their affair, stretching back 6 months. There were hundreds of messages, thousands. They talked about everything. They mocked their boss. They planned lunch dates that were clearly more than lunch. And they talked about Alara. E is so oblivious. She's completely wrapped up in her new high-rise project. I could tell her I was going to the moon, and she'd just ask if I needed her to pack me a sweater. The casual cruelty of it stole Alara's breath. She scrolled further, a voyeur to the destruction of her own life. There were photos. Chloe, preening for the camera in a hotel room Alara recognized from a recent work conference Lena had attended in San Diego. Lena and Chloe, kissing, their faces alight with a joy and passion Alara hadn't seen on her wife's face in years. And the final, devastating blow, a saved screenshot of a text from Lena to Chloe, sent just that afternoon. Can't wait to get out of here. Just have to play happy families with the wife for a few hours. Wish I still smelled like you instead of risotto, the risotto. The meal she was cooking when Lena walked in, wearing the scent of her lover. A wave of nausea washed over Alara, so intense she had to grip the edge of the counter to keep from collapsing. The room tilted, the familiar lines and angles of her kitchen warping into a grotesque parody of a home. It wasn't just an affair. It was a conspiracy. A long-running, meticulously planned deception. Every I love you, every shared meal, every quiet moment for the last 6 months had been a lie. Alara felt a cold, terrifying clarity descend upon her. The grief was a physical weight, crushing her chest, but beneath it, something else was hardening, resolve. She didn't cry. She methodically took her own phone and photographed every single screen of the conversation, every picture, every damning word, until her camera roll was a library of her wife's betrayal. She documented it all with the same precision she would use for a structural analysis report. When she was done, she placed the iPad back exactly where she had found it, wiped the counter, and went back upstairs. She slid into bed, the chill of her body a stark contrast to Lena's oblivious warmth. She lay there, unmoving, until the first gray light of dawn, not sleeping, but planning. The next morning was a masterclass in performance. Alara made coffee, packed Lena's lunch, and kissed her goodbye at the door, her movements automated, her face a serene mask. "Have a good day, honey," she said, her voice perfectly even. Lena, completely unaware, smiled back. "You too. Love you." The words, once the cornerstone of Alara's world, were now just meaningless sounds. As soon as the door closed, Alara's facade dropped. She called the best divorce attorney in Chicago, a woman known for her surgical precision and utter lack of sentimentality. She explained the situation calmly, factually, and emailed the mountain of evidence she had collected. The lawyer was impressed. You've done most of my work for me, she'd said. We'll file first thing tomorrow. Freeze all joint assets. Change the locks. Alara spent the day on autopilot, moving through her tasks with a chilling efficiency. She contacted a locksmith. She packed a bag for Lena with a week's worth of clothes and toiletries. She transferred half the money from their joint savings account into a new account in her name only, a preemptive strike her lawyer had advised. Each action was a step away from the life she had known, a deliberate dismantling of the structure they had built together. She felt strangely calm, suspended in a state of hyper-aware numbness. The emotional breakdown would come later, she knew. For now, there was only the work to be done. When Lena arrived home that evening, she found Alara sitting at the dining room table, her laptop open, the iPad placed squarely in the middle of the table. Alara didn't look up immediately. She let the silence stretch, thick and heavy. Lena's cheerful greeting died in her throat. "Hey, is everything okay?" she asked, her voice faltering as she saw Alara's face. It was a face she didn't recognize, calm, cold, and utterly devoid of warmth. "Sit down, Lena," Alara said, her tone leaving no room for argument. Lena slowly lowered herself into the chair opposite, her eyes starting from Alara to the iPad. Alara finally looked at her, her gaze steady and piercing. "I asked you last night who you'd hugged," she began, her voice low and measured. "You told me it was Chloe from marketing at her birthday party." Lena nodded, a flicker of confusion and fear in her eyes. "Right, yeah, that was a lie," Alara stated, not as a question, but as a fact. She slid the iPad across the table. It was open to the messages. Lena's face went white. She stared at the screen, her mouth opening and closing silently, like a fish gasping for air. "Alara. It's not what you think," she stammered, the classic, pathetic first line of the guilty. Alara gave a short, bitter laugh. "Oh, I think it's exactly what I think. I think you've been having an affair with your junior colleague for 6 months. I think you went to a hotel with her on your work trip to San Diego. I think you lie to my face every single day while you text her about how oblivious I am. Do you want me to continue, or have I covered the basics?" Lena's composure shattered. Okay. I can explain," she pleaded, her hands fluttering nervously. It started, and I didn't know how to stop it. I've been so unhappy, so trapped. We haven't been connecting. Do not," Alara cut in, her voice dropping to an icy whisper, "make this my fault. Do not use therapy speak to justify your deception. You were not trapped. You had a choice every single day for 182 days, and every day you chose to lie. You chose to betray our vows, our home, our entire life. You didn't have the decency to tell me you were unhappy. You just found a cheap, easy replacement." Lena began to cry, fat, desperate tears rolling down her cheeks. "I'm sorry. Alara, I'm so sorry. It meant nothing, I swear. It was a mistake. We can fix this. We can go to counseling. Please, don't throw away 12 years. Alara stared at her, feeling a profound and chilling emptiness. The woman she had loved was gone, replaced by this sniveling, self-pitying stranger. "There is nothing to fix," she said with devastating finality. "A building with a compromised foundation isn't repaired, Lena. It's condemned. Our marriage is over." She pushed a single key on her laptop, and the printer in the corner whirred to life. It began spitting out pages, screenshots of the most damning texts, the hotel photos, the cruel comments about her. A neat, undeniable stack of evidence. "My lawyer has all of this," Alara said calmly. "She'll be filing tomorrow. Your bag is packed by the door. The locks have been changed. You need to leave." Now Lena stared at her, her expression shifting from desperation to dawning horror as she realized Alara was immovable. This wasn't a fight. It was a verdict. "You can't just kick me out. This is my home too." "Not anymore," Alara said, standing up. "You forfeited your right to this home when you made it the backdrop for your lies." She walked to the front door and opened it, letting the cool night air rush in. "Goodbye, Lena." Lena stumbled to her feet, sobbing openly now, a raw, ugly sound. She made one last, desperate appeal, grabbing for Alara's arm. Alara pulled away as if she'd been burned. Don't touch me, the finality in her voice was absolute. Defeated, Lena grabbed her bag and walked out, not looking back. Alara closed the door, slid the deadbolt home, and leaned against it, the silence of the house pressing in on her. Alone. Completely alone. And only then, in the safety of her reclaimed space, did she allow herself to slide to the floor and weep. The days that followed were a blur of legalities and logistics. Alara was relentless. Following her lawyer's advice, she had an email sent from a third-party server to the head of HR at Lena's company, anonymously detailing a relationship between a senior manager and a subordinate, complete with evidence of them disparaging the company and using company resources for their affair. An internal investigation was launched immediately. Within a week, both Lena and Chloe were fired for gross misconduct and violating company policy. Chloe, terrified of the professional fallout, immediately cut all contact with Lena, blocked her number, and disappeared, proving the affair was as shallow as Alara had suspected. Lena was left with nothing: no wife, no home, no job, and no lover. She moved into a tiny, sad apartment across town. Her attempts to reach Alara were met with a wall of silence, every call and text blocked, every email routed to a folder Alara never opened. Her lawyer handled everything. The social fallout was just as swift. Their mutual friends, upon hearing the full story, sided overwhelmingly with Alara. Lena had not just cheated, she had been cruel, calculating, and contemptuous. She found herself socially isolated, a pariah in the circle she had once commanded. Her own parents called Alara to apologize for their daughter's behavior, their voices thick with shame. Alara, meanwhile, poured her energy into her work and her own healing. She sold the brownstone, unable to stomach the memories it now held. The sale finalized quickly, and with her half of the considerable assets, she accepted a dream offer from a firm in Seattle, a chance to lead a groundbreaking sustainable urban development project. It was a complete uprooting, a chance to build something new, both professionally and personally. She threw herself into therapy, into hiking the misty trails of the Pacific Northwest, into forging new friendships. The grief was still there, a dull ache in her chest, but it no longer consumed her. It was a scar, a reminder of a wound that was slowly, surely healing. 18 months after that fateful Tuesday, Alara was walking through Pike Place Market, a bouquet of vibrant flowers in her arm, feeling a sense of peace she hadn't thought possible. She was laughing with a new friend when a voice called her name. A voice she never wanted to hear again. She turned. It was Lena. She looked diminished. The vibrant confidence was gone, replaced by a weary resignation. She was thinner, dressed in clothes that didn't fit quite right, her hair lacking its usual shine. She was holding a grocery basket with a few generic items inside. "Alara," she said again, her voice soft. Wow. "You look amazing," Alara simply nodded, her expression polite but distant. "Lena, I wanted to say." "I'm sorry," Lena stammered, the words sounding hollow and rehearsed. "I know it's too late, but I am. I destroyed everything. I was a fool." Alara looked at the woman who had been the center of her universe for more than a decade. She felt no anger, no hatred. She felt nothing at all. It was like looking at a stranger. "Yes, you did," she said, her voice calm and even. "I hope you can build a better life for yourself." "I have," she gave a small, final smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Goodbye, Lena." Without waiting for a reply, she turned and walked away, melting back into the bustling crowd, leaving Lena standing alone among the fishmongers and tourists. She didn't look back. She was moving forward, toward the sunlit waterfront, toward the new life she was designing for herself, a structure built on the solid foundation of self-respect, with a blueprint all her own. Thank you for listening to today's story. We hope Alara's journey resonated with you. If you have a story you'd like to share, please reach out to us. And as always, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more content. We'll see you in the next one.